The purpose of these lessons is to show you the logic behind the most basic Chinese characters, beginning with the simplest pictograms and later combining these elements to create more complex characters. There are 4 characters in today's lesson, one of which contains the jian component from the previous 2 lessons, 103 and 104. 3 of the new characters contain an element we first encountered in lesson 77, but didn't stop to explain in depth: the pictograph of a sacred knife. The character shang is shown here for review because, at one time in the distant past, it contained 2 of those knives. This ceremonial knife, pronounced seen, was used for bloodletting as a religious purification ritual in ancient China during the Shang dynasty around 1600 BC. Much later, however, in the Han dynasty starting in 200 BC, bloodletting for religious reasons had become a criminal act, and this knife was used to tattoo or otherwise inflict scars on criminals and slaves for punishment and identification. Due to the ancient origin of today's characters, xin is taken for its connotation of sacredness and purity. In future lessons, we'll see its use as a sign of criminality. Chinese history goes back thousands of years. The Chinese themselves like to say 5,000. So such variation in the meaning of characters is not unusual. For an English example, we have the word nice, based on the words not and science, originally describing a foolish, ignorant person. But nice has since developed into the modern sense of agreeable, delightful, kind, or thoughtful. And that variation happened over a span of only 600 years. Anyway, in today's characters, this sacred knife is visible almost in its entirety and not reduced to 2 dots, as it is in shang. It's placed above and joined with the wood or tree radical to represent qin, the apparently sacred hazel or hazelnut tree, a dense, thicket-forming shrub commonly found in hedgerows and field boundaries in Europe. This thicket of densely interwoven branches, xin coupled with jian, is a metaphor for close family ties, literally people you see and interact with on an intimate level. This combination is pronounced first tone qin and is used in many expressions relating to family ties. Fourth tone qing has a very specific meaning which I'll leave for the summary. Anyway, first tone qin, when paired with mu and fu, creates the standard terms for mother, mu qin, and father, fu qin. 我父亲跟这件事无关. My father had nothing to do with this. Just a reminder that words for family relationships rarely add unstressed 的. 我哥哥, 我父亲. 儿子比父亲高出半个头. The son is half a head taller than his father. 无论如何，母亲一定会支持儿女. Mothers will definitely support their children no matter what. 从那天起，我母亲对我男友另眼看待. From that day forward, my mother saw my boyfriend in a new light. One's parents, spouse, children, and close relatives are referred to as 亲人. 在国外，没有朋友，也没有亲人，你要小心哦. You have no friends or family members abroad, so be careful. 他很会关心别人，因而大家都把他当作亲人。 He shows such concern for others that people regard him as family. To emphasize one's own flesh and blood, the phrase to use is 骨肉亲人. 你这样对待骨肉亲人太不像话了. It's shameful the way you treat your own flesh and blood. Although not the most modern expression, one traditional way to translate get married is 成亲. 你儿子和他女朋友什么时候成亲? When are your son and his girlfriend getting married? 亲事 is an expression referring to marriage as an event, with 门 as its measure word. 我看这门亲事真的是天作之合. I think this marriage is truly a match made in heaven. 他的朋友跟他讲这门亲事是如何的要不得. Her friends told her what a serious mistake this marriage would be. Notice the phrase 要不得, meaning extremely bad, inappropriate, intolerable, condemnable. Literally, that must not be had or must not be obtained. The closeness among 亲人 can also extend to kissing in the phrases 亲一亲, 亲一个, and 亲嘴. 来亲一个, come give a kiss. Literally, come kiss me one. 情人站在街头上亲嘴. The lovers stood on the street corner kissing. The intimacy implied by 亲 naturally suggests a closeness between individuals such as family members, friends, and co-workers, and is often used in a negative sense. 不亲. 听说男生大多和妈妈不亲. I've heard it said that boys generally don't have a close relationship with their mothers. 我跟大哥不亲，好多年不相往来. My big brother and I aren't close, and we rarely see each other. Notice I did not say 跟我的大哥, nor 跟我大哥. I cannot count the number of times my Chinese teachers have corrected me for adding too many 'was' with family members. That's English, they would say, and whose big brother would it be if not yours? But then I recall that 大哥 is also a polite reference to a man about the same age as me. So I need to add 我 to be clear that it's my brother, right? Wrong. Notice that there's always a surname attached when it's not a family member. 林大哥, 刘大哥, 赵大哥. This is just one example of native language interference to watch out for. English pronoun usage versus Chinese usage. Anyway, let's go on. 亲朋好友 is an expression describing close friends and relatives. 他出国当天跟亲朋好友道别. On the day he went abroad, he bid goodbye to his close friends and relatives. 他常常把亲朋好友当作拍照的对象. She often takes photos of her close friends and relatives. 他生日当天在意大利餐厅招待了亲朋好友. He entertained friends and family at an Italian restaurant on his birthday. 亲朋好友 for friends and relatives is often reduced to just 亲友. 我好恨，因为父母以及亲友都关心他一个人. I hate it because my family and friends all care only about her. 亲信 can refer to one's trusted followers, confidant, entourage, or inner circle. Literally, someone close and trusted. 小儿子是他父亲的亲信. His younger son is his father's favorite, and presumably his confidant. Notice that this sentence keeps the 他 in front of 父亲. That might indicate a third party. Someone outside the family is commenting. By dropping 他, a family member would probably be making this remark. 那个机构是他的亲信在把持的. That organization is run by his trusted partners. No one is closer or more intimate than one's own self. So now 亲 in these next examples takes on the meaning of one's very own eyes, ears, mouth, and hands. 你必须亲手拿给她. You have to deliver it to her in person. 他是亲眼看见我跟你的约定. He personally witnessed the agreement between you and me. Notice that in English, we're always taught to mention ourselves last. You and I, you and me, etc. Whereas in Chinese, there's no such unwritten rule of courtesy, as in this example, 我跟你的约定. 这话是他亲口跟我说的. He told me this himself. 这些画都是我母亲亲手画的. These paintings were painted by my mother herself. 到最后，他招认了，我亲耳听到的. In the end, he confessed, I heard him myself. 我亲手把木屋的钥匙拿给她. I personally gave her the key to the cabin. 要不是我亲眼看见，我是不会相信的. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Notice the expression 要不是, an obvious contraction of 要是不是, meaning if it were not for, or but for. Phrases like this are important for expressing the English past perfect in Chinese, such as the phrase, if I hadn't, if I weren't. 想知道好不好吃，你就要亲口尝一尝. If you want to know how it tastes, you'll have to try it yourself. Following this same logic, 亲生 indicates a woman is, or acts as though she is, the birth mother. 她把我当亲生儿子看待. She treats me as her own son. 她比亲生女儿多活了10年. She lived 10 years longer than her own daughter. As we saw earlier in the phrase 骨肉亲人, one's own flesh and blood, a similar phrase is 亲生骨肉. 儿女是父母的亲生骨肉，哪有不想念的? Children are their parents' flesh and blood. How could they not miss them? In Lesson 50, we saw that the character for number 7, 七, was a simple depiction of something being cut in two. But since it looked exactly like the number 10, 十, it was given a bent shape. The meaning of to cut then needed its own character, so a knife radical was added and first tone 切 was invented. Since nothing comes closer than a knife blade as it slices through something, this visual image is the second connotation, pronounced fourth tone, 切, meaning close to or correspond to. An example from Lesson 50 was the phrase 切题, to stick to the topic, and in Lesson 100, 切切如令, do exactly as ordered. In today's lesson, we now have 亲切, in which both characters have this sense of closeness. This new phrase means intimate, cordial, or kind, all describing various degrees of closeness. 你侄女人很好，待人又很亲切. Your niece is a very nice person who treats others kindly. 分别多年后重聚，今天的会面特别亲切. Reuniting after all these years apart, the meeting was particularly cordial. For our second character, we need to understand the different elements that enter into its composition. So I'll introduce a new reticle, the axe or hatchet reticle, pronounced first tone, 金. Only in classical Chinese did 金 mean an axe. Even in ancient times, the heavy metal blade with a wooden handle had been borrowed as a unit of weight for weighing meat, fruits, and vegetables. In East and Southeast Asia, this unit of weight is called a catty, a word derived from the Malay language of Malaysia. 1 catty is about 1 1/3 pounds, but it may vary from 600 grams in Taiwan, Japan, Korea, and Thailand to 605 grams in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, and Vietnam. Even different cities within China used to have their own version of the catty. The Chinese government, however, has now standardized the catty to 500 grams or half a kilogram, just as it did with the ancient measure for distance, li, setting it at 500 meters. 玉米是论斤卖. Corn is sold by the catty. Notice the use of 论 for measurements to mean by, as in by the meter, by the kilogram, by the ounce. 你买了几斤羊肉? How many catties of lamb did you buy? 请问牛肉一斤多少? How much is a catty of beef? We've seen before that opposites, paired together, such as 大, 小, become a general term for size. So 斤两 becomes a general term for weight. That explains the use of 有斤两 in this next sentence to mean important or weighty. 斤两不足, of course, would indicate physical weight. Someone has put their finger on the scale, cheating a customer. 婆婆说的话有斤两，请你们好好听着. Grandma has words of wisdom for you. You'd better listen up. Notice the pronunciation of 好好. The 儿化 makes a useful distinction. 好好听 simply translates as to sound nice, pleasing to the ear, while 好好听 means to listen carefully and attentively, which is the meaning in our example. Chinese speakers unaccustomed to the 儿化 of Northern Mandarin would need to say 好好的听 to express this difference. 那家米行生意不好，一向卖米斤两不足. That rice store gets little business. They're always selling customers short. In China, a jin is called a market catty because it's commonly used in fresh markets for weighing meat, fruits, and vegetables, and has been standardized to 500 grams. You'll recall from lesson 73 that the metric system adds the character gong to mean public or common, as in 公里, a kilometer. 公斤 would then be a kilogram, equivalent to 2 market catties. 请给我称3公斤猪肉. Please weigh out 3 kilograms of pork for me. 那个大理石像重100公斤， 我挪不动. That marble statue weighs 100 kilograms. I can't budge it. In traditional Chinese measurements, 16 ounces equals 1 pound. One traditional jin is also divided into 16 liang, otherwise known as tael or ounce. The word tael, T-A-E-L, for ounce is another Malay word. So 8 tael, 8 liang, would be half a catty, 半斤. The idiom 半斤8两 in English would then be about the same as 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. In other words, not much to choose between the two. 这不过是半斤8两而已. It's just 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. 他们两个哪个对？我看一个是半斤，一个8两. Who's right? I guess it's just a matter of he said, she said. With that introduction to the axe radical jin, we can now incorporate jin into today's third character, combining it with the chin phonetic and pronouncing it first tone seen, which means new, as opposed to old. There are two competing origin stories for this combination of an axe next to a hazel tree, which etymologists all agree originally meant firewood for the hearth. Since this fire was important for both cooking and warmth, it was never allowed to burn out. And, in keeping with the seasons of the year, it was customary to gather firewood from specific trees at the start of each season to keep the embers of this hearth fire alive. This seasonal firewood was called seen for. From this custom of a freshly kindled fire originated the idea of a new beginning, and was further extended to include anything new. The second origin story explains that at the start of the spring growing season, a shaman would build a fire with wood from the sacred hazel tree on newly cleared land in preparation for cultivation. The meaning of anything newly begun sprang from this yearly custom. So, the modern meaning of xin is new. The character for that original firewood will be our fourth character. 我们当然使用最新的技术. We of course use the latest technology. 你这架照相机是新买的吗? Is your camera new? Literally, is it newly purchased? 她打定主意要找个新的工作. She made up her mind to find a new job. 这个新的规定惹了好多人生气. This new regulation made a lot of people angry. The idiom 面目一新 means something has a brand new appearance. 儿子花了一天的时间把汽车弄得面目一新. My son spent a whole day giving the car a brand new look. The idiom 耳目一新 means to find everything one hears and sees fresh and new, or to have a completely new impression of something. 跟这么有趣的人聊天，令人耳目一新. It's refreshing to chat with such interesting people. 哥哥从国外回来，一定会令人耳目一新. When my brother returns from abroad, he'll surely be a totally different person. 新来的 would be a newcomer. 新来的男生常顶嘴，跟我的关系搞僵了. That new boy student often talks back, making our relationship a tense one. 新来乍到 is an idiom describing a newcomer. 你新来乍到，对这里的规矩有些不了解. you're new here and not familiar with the rules. 新来乍到的人往往不相信这里天气是如此冰冷。Newcomers often don't believe how cold the weather is here. 新年 refers to the Chinese Lunar New Year. 我不是个很在乎新年不新年的人。I'm not somebody who cares about whether it's New Year's or not. 今年的新年聚会，我们要在小刘家开。This year's New Year's Eve party will be held at 小刘's house. 新奇, a combination of new and strange, naturally translates as something new, novel, or strange. 我哥常买那些新奇的小玩意儿。My brother often buys those newfangled gadgets. 玩意儿 is a Northern Mandarin colloquialism for a toy, gadget, or activity for relaxation and entertainment. If referring to a man, however, as in, 他是什么玩意儿? It means, what kind of louse is he? Definitely not a compliment. 他的行为对我来说一点也不新奇。His behavior is not new or surprising to me at all. 你这个构想倒很新奇，就是行不通。This scheme of yours is quite a novel one, but it won't work. A new employee, a new bride, a new love, or a new kind of man could all be translated as 新人。你们需要有不一样见解的新人。You need new people with different perspectives. 有一个新人加入了你们家，对吗？ You've welcomed a new daughter-in-law into your family, right? 我倒不介意有新人来跟我们一起合作。I actually don't mind if someone new comes to work with us. A new hand at a job, a novice, or a greenhorn are all referred to as 新手。她是个新手妈妈。She's a new mother, implying, of course, that she's inexperienced at caring for a baby. 就新手而论，他已得到要领。As far as newbies go, he's already got the hang of it. 不要责骂他，他显然是个新手。Don't yell at him. He's obviously new at this. The phrase for news is 新闻, literally, that which is newly heard. 我听到了一个有趣的新闻。I heard an interesting piece of news. 我爸天天收听收音机新闻。My dad listens to the radio news every day. Notice the phrase 收听 for listening to, literally receiving and listening to a radio broadcast. 收看 is the phrase for watching a television program, even though I haven't yet introduced all the characters for television. 这意外事件成了小镇里的大新闻了。This unexpected incident became big news in the town. 这些法令对全世界的新闻机构很不利。These laws are bad for news organizations around the world. Next are the expressions for journalism as an occupation, 新闻业, journalism circles, 新闻界, and a person working as a journalist, 新闻工作者. The simple term for a journalist contains a character we haven't learned yet, so is not included here. 她是我在新闻界多年的好朋友. She's a good friend who's been in journalism circles for many years. 他是一位敬业又负责的新闻工作者。She's a dedicated and responsible journalist. 有了 AI 以后，从事新闻业者会失业。With the advent of AI, journalists will lose their jobs. Using the abbreviation AI is very common in Chinese writing and conversation. 重新 is an adverb meaning again, anew, or the prefix re, re. 她生了宝宝之后，不久再出来重新工作。She returned to work soon after giving birth. Both 宝宝 and 宝贝 mean darling or baby. As for pronunciation, double bao can be read normally as bao bao or changed to bao bao, with the last one sounding the cutest, according to my Chinese female friends. Probably because the same pronunciation, bao bao, different characters, means to be stuffed, having gorged oneself with food. Not the same. 父母过世了之后，我必须重新规划我的生活。After my parents passed away, I had to reorganize my life. With this new character, Xin, we can write the name of the city-state of Singapore, 新加坡. As we saw with Canada, 加拿大, the character 加 was chosen to indicate the sound ga in Cantonese pronunciation. I mentioned before that most Chinese place names were taken from the Cantonese dialect because the people of Guangdong province, formerly spelled Canton in English, were historically among the first to explore the world beyond the shores of China, or to emigrate, and the first to transliterate most place names that continue to be used today, despite their obvious disparity with the official language Mandarin. 到新加坡令我耳目一新. Coming to Singapore is a refreshing change for me. 在新加坡，中国话叫做华语。In Singapore, spoken Chinese is called 华语. Today's fourth and final character now represents the meaning of firewood, since the original 新 has become restricted to its connotation of new. The character for firewood adds the grass radical on top, since it already contains the wood or tree radical in the lower left corner. The pronunciation is the same as the original. First tone, 新. The character for firewood would not appear to be that important in the modern language, except for the fact that wood for cooking and warmth and water for drinking and cleaning were absolutely essential to life in the ancient world. In Roman times, salt was a daily necessity, and soldiers were given a regular allowance to purchase it, called a salarium, the origin of the modern word salary. In China, firewood and water were considered daily essentials, so the combination 薪水 now means a regular payment for services performed, or a salary. 你要好好理财，领了薪水要省一点用。You should manage your finances and watch how you spend your salary. 他不会理财，薪水到手不久就花光。He can't manage money. Once he gets his salary, he soon spends it all. 买下那件皮大衣要花1个月的薪水。It costs a month's wages to buy that leather coat. One's annual salary is called 年薪, dropping the water, 水。你年薪多少? What's your annual salary? 高薪 is the term for a job with a high salary. 我要当个高薪白领技术人员。I want to be a highly paid white-collar technician. 女儿说，男友没有高薪工作，她不嫁给他。My daughter says she won't marry her boyfriend if he doesn't have a high-paying job. To get a raise in wages, or a rise in British English, is 加薪。要是领导下个月再不给我加薪，我就走了。If the leadership doesn't give me a raise next month, I'll leave. 他在餐厅里当领班多年后才开口要加薪。She worked in a restaurant as a maitre d' for many years before asking for a raise. A starting salary is rendered as 起薪。我们可以给你5000元做起薪。We can give you 5,000 yuan as a starting salary. 你的月薪从2000元起薪，包吃。Your monthly salary will start at 2,000 yuan, including food. Notice that 包 from lesson 14 also means to contain or include. Here is our color chart with today's 4 characters. 亲 진 新 and another 新 Here's a recap from today's lesson. 1. Of the 4 characters in this lesson, 3 contain the sacred hazel tree component, 친, beginning with first tone, 친. The hazel tree, or hazel bush, depending on how it's cropped and pruned, has closely intertwined dense foliage and is taken to represent the close and intimate connection between family members, those related by blood, as in the expression 父母亲 and 亲人, or those related by marriage, as in 相亲, 成亲, and 亲事, or those simply close friends or confidants, as in 亲朋好友 and 亲信. No one is closer than one's own self, so 亲眼, 亲耳, 亲口, 亲手, 亲声 refer to one's personal or close involvement. Fourth tone 庆 with the nasal ng sound is used very broadly in Chinese for one's in-laws, called 亲家, which is appended to the words for grandparents, aunts, uncles, mother, father, and siblings of one's new son-in-law or daughter-in-law. Family relationships and ancestor worship have always been an integral part of Chinese culture, and the language reflects that. Some examples would be 亲家哥哥, the older brother of one's son or daughter-in-law. 亲家女儿, the daughter of that related family. 亲家太太, the grandmother or grand aunt of that related family, and so on and so forth. 2. Today's second character required the introduction of the axe radical, jin, which in the modern language refers to a unit of weight between 500 and 600 grams. It's commonly used in traditional wet markets for meat, fruits, and vegetables, but not in supermarkets where the metric system prevails. 3. The third character was xin, a combination of the axe radical jin and the chin phonetic. Originally meaning firewood, it took on the meaning of anything new, as in the phrases 面目一新, 耳目一新, 新来乍到, 新人 and 新手, 新奇 and 新闻, 重新 and the city-state of 新加坡. 4. Today's final character, xin, was the newly derived character for firewood, once its original form was limited to the meaning of new. A grass radical, 草, was added to make the distinction. The most useful expression with this firewood character is 薪水, meaning salary, as in the phrases 年薪 高薪, 加薪, and 起薪. Now you will find a short quiz on double, triple character, and longer expressions. Answer using only the characters learned so far. Thank you for watching and listening.